Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for listening to our paper today titled Your Attention Please, using AI-based solutions to help marketeers hold people's attention for longer. We hope to bring some new ideas and inspiration about how AI and automation really can make an impact on your research right now, and it does not have to be complicated or difficult. So my name is Mann, and I am the founding partner, one of the founding partners of Day One Strategy, which is a research agency specialising in the healthcare sector. And as we're talking about attention today, we thought it fitting to start off by mentioning some of the things that we know are vying for our attention outside of work today. So for me, it's definitely fashion brands, jewellery brands, and dog rescue homes, which must say something about me. But presenting with me today is Mark Bainbridge, and I'm going to hand over to Mark now to introduce himself.
Thanks very much, Hannah. Yeah, my name is Mark Bainbridge. I'm the co-founder of Dragonfly.ai. We're basically an artificial intelligence product which, simply put, shows you what the human brain sees first in any content instance.
So what are we going to cover today? So first of all, starting with the issue, so the rise of the attention economy and what that has and why that has come about. Then moving into look at the tech that can help brands and researchers win this battle for attention, providing some live examples to help demonstrate just how easy it is to use. And then finally finishing up with a summary of why this all matters and the value that it can bring to the table in market research. So starting with the rise of the attention economy and why this has come to be. Well, there's been a definite transition over the last few years in terms of our ability to focus and concentrate on just one thing. In essence, our attention span is waning, so it's getting harder and harder to hold customers' attention and to keep it. To demonstrate this point, a study by Microsoft concluded that the human attention span has dropped from 12 to 8 seconds in just a few years. And yes, that is actually less than the attention span of a goldfish, so that really is saying something. But we are bombarded by information all the time, and our brains just cannot cope with all this information. There is a limit to how much it can process. On top of that, we're being reprogrammed to expect answers fast and easy, so we don't expect to have to try too hard to understand the messages being directed at us. And as just alluded to, and you might have noticed in your own lives as well, in the modern world, life means that we are constantly bombarded by information and messages, which is causing this problem. So to demonstrate this point in numbers, there is over 200 million items of content produced every 60 seconds. And we're supposedly exposed to over 10,000 ads on a daily basis, which is staggering. And it takes only 0.4 seconds for the brain to engage with the brand message in the precognitive state, which means we're constantly trying to digest all that's going on around us. So it's no wonder we can't focus and we're experiencing cognitive overload on a daily basis. And what all this means is that we're in this new age of the attention economy. And there have been various books and articles written about this, but in its simplest terms, when something is in short supply but faces high demand, it becomes a scarce commodity and its value goes up. So as a result, to get hold of that scarce commodity not only becomes harder, but it also becomes more costly. But why do we care? Well, I work in healthcare, and being able to get a clear and often really complicated message about, say, a new drug through to a doctor is very, very difficult. They don't always care about the brand. In fact, they rarely care about the brand, really, and it's definitely not the most important thing in their day. So in order to cut through, our clients need to work much harder across 3 key areas. So what they say, i.e. say something interesting and new to get noticed. How they say it. It doesn't matter that they may have 5 pages of data that they want to share. Doctors are still human. They still have roughly 0.4 seconds to get their attention. And you need to make the messages easy to digest and remain focused on only the messages that really, really matter to drown out the noise. But don't worry, there is a solution that can help with this dilemma in the form of predictive attention AI. And I'll now hand over to Mark, who's going to explain exactly what this is.
Thanks, Hannah. So actually, our story in terms of attention prediction started back in 2010 with a piece of academic research from Queen Mary University of London. They were looking initially at how to give robotic devices human visual logic interpretation ability so that they could contextually navigate more effectively around where they were delivering their robotic solutions. And it started a piece of research which ended up lasting about 4 years in the end. At the outset, the university were looking specifically at what we call System 1 biological human processes. They're trying to look at how the human brain works as a biological computer, effectively. So we make a big separation between System 1 and System 2, which is our emotional response and all the things that make us individual, unique, and human. So what they established was that in the biological System 1 state, the human brain ingests content and processes it using 5 principal neural pathways. And it helps us then to prioritize what we're looking at. Just to give you a quick insight into the neural pathways themselves, our ability to discern between light and darkness, to discern between different textural surfaces, to look at contrast and edges, which help to define shapes in space and time. And ultimately, then we can look at color, shape, and perspective. And the final 5th neural pathway is our uncanny ability to spot anomalies in patterns and orientation designs. So if we click onto the next one. Basically, what Dragonfly does is it's kind of turned this mathematical formula that the university published to the academic world back in 2014. And we partnered with them effectively to turn that into a software solution that allows us to use and repeat the use of that biological algorithm. And what we've done is effectively created a software solution that ingests content, applies the algorithm, and then outputs that in terms of a series of heat maps, metrology layers, and regional analysis capabilities, all instantly available to us. So we can do this with pretty much any content, and it'll help us to understand what the human brain sees first in any instance. It was also bench tested by MIT in the US, and they compared us to a human baseline sample, and we scored just under 10% off human interpretation levels. So for artificial intelligence, that's considered to be pretty spectacularly good. What it does, it indexes content, and we're allowed to apply effectively a metrology layer of the index maps that we see, and I'll show you some in a moment just to get a sense of what I'm talking about. But before we kind of reveal what it does, a few little kind of insights into how it does it and what we should be looking out for. So our index ranges from 0, which is low salience, typically shown in a heat map as the blue, so the low color temperatures, up to 100, which is the highest. And these are the areas that are really interesting to us, because these are the areas of high salient attention. It means we can look at that content and we can instantly see where the attention fixation is. It also helps us to understand how we digest content, because we also established in the academic research the human brain can contend with between 3 and 5 items of content in that spectacular 0.14 seconds of initial attention. So we can show basically what the human brain sees in that instant. High scores over 80 for content we want the consumer to see are really important. It means they're getting the attention focus that they need. Scores below 50 are typically a little bit more concerning if they're significant, because it means we're not likely to see them. So if we move on to the next one, we can have a look at hopefully some content. So I've randomly selected some advertising content here to have a look at and to try to help understand what we can do. So what we've got on the left-hand side here is a banner ad. What we can see is the grid that's been placed over the color mapping. So the color heat mapping shows us instantaneously, where the attention focus is. Now, I don't know what Adidas in this case is trying to convey, or the sequence of message hierarchy, but what this tells us is where the human attention focus is. So we can see in the 5 or 6 red squares there, scores way up into the the 90s, and there's a 100 score there, which is the highest salience you can achieve. So that's where the focal attention point is. It might not be what they want the consumer to see, but it's telling them, in an unbiased, objective way, is what's happening with that piece of creative. The 2 numbers in the green squares are also quite interesting. So they're called the Digestibility Index. They tell us about how comprehensible that piece of creative is. Now, on a scale of 0 to 100, we'd expect good, clean, digestible content to be tracking somewhere between 25 and 35. So in this instance, they may have a few issues they might want to iron out. They've got quite high digestibility, which means the ad may be a bit complex for the human brain to absorb. The other is that we can see where the focal attention points are, and 3 of them seem to be over the leg of the runner, which may not be where they want the marketing payoff to be. If we look at the central ad, that's just simply a view where we've just used the basic heat mapping. And on the right-hand side, we have automated regions which we can apply to content. What that helps us to understand is how that content is performing. So what we're looking for here is obviously the descending sequence of numbers, which helps us to understand the way that the brain is effectively digesting what we're looking at in that particular piece of content. The downside of this, again, for Adidas, is that because all those numbers are scoring well below 50, the chances are we'll probably disregard most of the content in that ad. So the next example is just to take you into the digital aisle. We have a Google Chrome extension which allows us to look at live digital assets or assets on staging servers. In this instance, we can see Marmite, love it or hate it. There it is in all its glory. We can apply something called probability of perception, which is what percentage of viewers are going to see content. And then we have automated regions we can apply over this content. So we're beginning to understand is what percentage of consumers visiting this page are going to see these content items. See, some things are performing really well, so the product SKUs are doing pretty well, and some of the product detail might be underperforming. So again, we've got an instant view of how digital assets are working for us. And then the last example we wanted to show you is how we can apply Dragonfly to video motion content, which again might be quite interesting. Topical ad, post-pandemic. And here we can see how Dragonfly applied to visual content is beginning to help us to understand whether we're actually delivering with significance the content that's in view. Now, the downside of analyzing a TVC post-publication or post-broadcast is that it's too late to make any changes to it, but it'll help us to understand in the edit process, how to get the best out of content. So typically, if we're looking to place products in video sequence, we can ensure that the products are getting the right level of visibility and attention. So the nice thing about Dragonfly ideally is it's an iterative tool that allows you to optimize your content for human attention before you publish it.
So what can this technology really do to help our clients? Let's think about the value it potentially adds. Firstly, I think this quote says it all. It's no longer good enough to guess if something is being noticed and noticed for the right reasons. We need a better and more definitive measure with predictive attention AI which it can bring to the table. This technology helps us to truly understand what is most likely to get people's attention, which immediately gives brands an advantage over the competition. It doesn't really matter how great your product or your drug is. If no one takes any notice of what you're saying about it, then really it's going to get overlooked. But in summary, there are two clear advantages. So this technology allows us to go beyond what people say they do or take notice of and gives us more concrete evidence of what they will actually see and notice in real life. And if we apply predictive attention AI to promotional materials or store layouts, then we can learn quickly how to optimize their layouts to increase the chances of them being noticed. And finally, we can use this tech to make sure that the key messages that we know will have the greatest impact on behaviour are the ones that get noticed first. So in other words, this is a quick and efficient tool to enhance what we know as humans works, but to make our communications even better. And finally, a few things we've not mentioned already, but I think are really, really key. This tech, it does improve the advice we can offer as researchers, but on top of that, it's really, really fast, it's frictionless, and it's cost effective. And in fact, the tech, it's instant in terms of how it works, and the analysis can be done in just a few hours. So the question really is, why wouldn't you use it rather than why would you? And we look forward to your questions. Thank you very much.